Hey everyone, you're listening to Ankur Warikoo on Woice with Warikoo. On this podcast, I talk to you about entrepreneurship, how to grow in life, manage personal finances, handle failures, and a lot more things that just come to my mind. The episode begins. Today, I want to talk about boredom. It's something that we actively use in our daily lives. We often find ourselves thinking or saying, "Oh, I'm bored," or "I feel bored." But I don't think many of us think deeply about what does boredom really lead to and what does it really mean. The reason I am sharing this is because I recently heard a TED talk by this lady called Manoush Zomorodi. I hope I'm getting her name right. And it was a fascinating talk about how it's been scientifically proven that boredom is actually a great way to become creative, to find linkages between what would be seemingly disconnected items and unrelated. And this is how it works. On an average, today, a person picks up their phone 266 times a day. 266 times a day. On an average, a working professional checks their email 74 times a day. And what we've gotten ourselves to is that we constantly feel the need to occupy ourselves. In fact, feeling bored is looked down upon. We come from a time and an era where if you were bored, that means you didn't have anything to do. And there is this very famous saying which says, "Khali dimag shaitan ka ghar hota hai," which translated means that an empty mind is the home for a devil. And I don't know the basis for that saying, but I can tell you with confidence and from my personal experience, that isn't true. Yes, if you daydream and you think about things that are just wishful to make yourselves feel happy about it, that is definitely going to be destructive. But if you allow yourself to get bored, then what happens is you get into a zone called the default mode. And Manoush in her talk wonderfully describes the default mode. What happens in the default mode is your brain begins to connect things that are seemingly not connected or unrelated. Imagine you picking up something from maths and picking up something from sports and just connecting the two because you see something in it that wasn't so obvious when you were intently focused on thinking about maths or thinking about sports. And that is what boredom leads to. In that default mode, you are connecting these dots in ways that you could not have if you would tried it actively. What happens though is when you try to be active, when you try to do multiple things during the same time, which we fancily call multitasking, it's like me recording this podcast while checking my emails and also responding to the WhatsApp message that I've got. We think that we're doing all of these together, but that's not how our brain works. Our brain can only do one thing at a time. So when we multitask, when we do 4 or 5 things at one time, essentially what's happening is that our brain does one task, finishes that, then quickly goes to another, finishes that, quickly goes to another, finishes that, quickly goes to another, finishes that, and does that ad infinitum. In summary, what the brain is doing is tiring itself and wasting precious neural energy. And that is why we feel so drained when we try and multitask, when we try and achieve a lot more, when what we essentially should be doing is not even focusing on one thing, but focusing on nothing. So the next time you pick up your phone, not because you have a purpose attached to it, but you just want to distract yourself, you just want to kill that boredom that you're feeling, it actually may be a good thing to let go of the phone and feel bored. Kids do that so much. You will find that kids have this wonderful ability to get bored and keep moving from one thing to another, to another, to fix that boredom. But essentially, they're not fixing that boredom. What they're essentially doing is just getting bored. They're getting bored by the book. They're getting bored by the toy. They're getting bored by the play. And then they indulge in self-play. They're talking to themselves. They are weaving things in thin air. They are imagining characters. They are playing out an entire drama scene in their eyes, in their minds, without anything of it actually happening. But unfortunately, what do we do as parents? We throw them into a world of distraction. We give them the iPad, the iPhone to let them consume whatever is it that they want to, thinking that, oh my God, that's knowledge because they're getting to learn nursery rhymes and alphabets and letters and numbers. But what we're essentially doing is giving them this visual dopamine that doesn't allow them to get bored. So by the time they are our age, they've lost that. They've lost the ability to be bored, which was such an innate talent that they had and they were born with. And that's why it's so hard for us to feel okay being bored. If I'm boring you, that may actually be an intent. So, what I want you to do is if you're driving down listening to this podcast, or if you're sitting in a metro or in a bus or in a taxi or whatnot, listening to that podcast, listen to it, or perhaps even stop right away and just look out the window. Just do nothing. No phone, no book, no person, no music, nothing. No provocation, no titillation, nothing that gets your senses excited. Just get bored. And if you do that consistently in a disciplined manner, you'll be shocked and surprised at how many of your unsolvable problems begin to look not so complex and instead trivial. Try it out. Let me know how it works. All the best. Thank you for listening to this episode of Woice with Warikoo. To be notified of upcoming episodes, be sure to subscribe and follow the show on this app right now. Also, don't forget to rate and review the show because that just feels nice. Thank you.